Dragon Age Origins Awakening. Before massive open-world RPGs dominated the industry, BioWare showed what true dark fantasy storytelling could feel like. Dragon Age Awakening wasn't just a small add-on. It was a fully realized continuation of Origins, crafted for players who craved more depth, more consequence, and more world-building. In Awakening, you take command of the Grey Wardens, rebuild their order from ashes, and decide what kind of legacy they'll leave behind. Every decision hits hard. Betray a companion, and you might lose an entire storyline. Show mercy, and it could doom your people later. The writing is heavy, moral, complex, pure BioWare at its creative peak. The combat blends strategy and brutality, rewarding careful positioning and class synergy. You don't just swing swords, you lead a team of legends into the jaws of nightmares. It's grim, beautiful, and unforgettable. Awakening might not have had the biggest map, but its world felt alive with purpose, and that's something modern games often forget. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. When Skyrim launched, it didn't just change the RPG genre, it redefined freedom in gaming. Millions of players remember that moment, walking out of Helgen, staring at the mountains, and realizing there was no quest marker you had to follow. You could go anywhere, do anything, be anyone. The sheer scale of Tamriel was unmatched. You could be a stealthy assassin for the Dark Brotherhood, a powerful archmage, or a simple wanderer chasing butterflies and books. And then the dragons came, colossal, awe-inspiring creatures that made every encounter feel epic. The modern community turned Skyrim into something even bigger, a living world that evolved for more than a decade. From survival overhauls to entire new continents, fans kept this game alive longer than anyone expected. Even today, Skyrim stands as a symbol of adventure, the kind of world you don't just play, you live in. Few games capture that sense of discovery and wonder, where every mountain peak hides a new story waiting to be told.
Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is one of those games that didn't get the love it deserved, but true RPG fans know how special it was. With lore written by R.A. Salvatore, art direction from Todd McFarlane, and systems designed by Ken Rolston, Morrowind, Oblivion, it was an RPG dream team project. The world of Amalur was bright, colorful, and alive, a sharp contrast to the darker tones of other fantasy games at the time. The combat was fluid and dynamic, far ahead of its peers. Every sword swing, dodge, and spell felt satisfying, almost like an action game disguised as an RPG. The fate system was its secret weapon. You weren't just another chosen hero, you were a being who could rewrite destiny itself. The choices you made literally bent fate, allowing for deep character customization and moral nuance. While the game didn't get the commercial success it deserved, its influence can still be felt. Amalur was a glimpse of what RPGs could become. Fast, flexible, and beautifully mythic. For those who played it, it wasn't just another quest, it was an unforgettable adventure and a world that deserved so much more. Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 carried the impossible task of following one of the most influential games ever made, and it did so with its own distinct identity. It wasn't about comfort or heroism. It was about loneliness, decay, and perseverance. The world of Drangleic felt broken, a place collapsing under its own weight, full of forgotten kings and cursed wanderers. What made Dark Souls 2 stand out was its sense of scale and experimentation. The game offered more builds, more weapons, and deeper customization than its predecessor. The combat was punishing but fair. Every mistake was your own fault, every victory earned through sheer focus. Beyond gameplay, it was a journey through melancholy. You weren't saving the world, you were simply trying to remember who you were. It's a haunting masterpiece, one that rewards patience and curiosity. For players who truly love challenge and atmosphere, Dark Souls 2 wasn't just another sequel, it was a reflection on what it means to endure.
Dragon Age Inquisition. BioWare returned to its throne with Dragon Age Inquisition, a massive RPG that pushed the genre forward. The world was huge, alive, and full of meaning. Every mountain you climbed and every fortress you conquered felt like a step in rebuilding a broken realm. You didn't just play a hero, you led a movement. The Inquisition wasn't about one person saving the world, it was about uniting people under hope and belief. Companions had layered personalities. The political intrigue was rich, and the cinematic storytelling reached new heights. Combat evolved too, tactical yet dynamic, combining strategy and spectacle. And then there were the visuals. From the snowy peaks of Emprise du Lion to the glowing fade rifts tearing through the sky, it was a visual feast of mythic scale. Inquisition reminded everyone what BioWare does best: emotional writing, world-shaping choices, and the sense that your story, not the game's, defines the legend. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 wasn't just Game of the Year, it became Game of the Generation. CD Projekt Red took the foundations of open-world storytelling and elevated them into art. Every quest, even the smallest side story, felt human, filled with love, loss, and consequence. As Geralt of Rivia, players traveled across the war-torn lands of Velen, the mysterious Isles of Skellige, and the bustling city of Novigrad. The world was alive in a way few games had ever achieved. Sunsets that burned gold over the water, storms that rolled through villages, and characters who felt heartbreakingly real. The emotional core, the search for Ciri, gave the adventure meaning far beyond monster contracts and politics. Every choice mattered, and the endings reflected not just your actions, but your morality. The Witcher 3 proved that storytelling and gameplay don't have to compete. They can merge into something timeless. It didn't just define fantasy, it redefined what gaming could be. Dark Souls 3. If Dark Souls 2 was about despair, Dark Souls 3 was about closure, the end of a world consumed by fire. From Software delivered a finale that felt both nostalgic and apocalyptic. Every boss fight was a symphony of rage and beauty. Every area told its story through silence and decay. Mechanically, it was the most refined entry in the series, fast, aggressive, and precise. It borrowed the agility of Bloodborne, but kept the strategic depth that made Souls unforgettable. You weren't just fighting monsters, you were dancing with death, frame by frame. But it was the tone that made Dark Souls 3 a masterpiece, a farewell to a dying flame. Fans recognized familiar places, long-forgotten names, and echoes of the first game's tragedy. It was poetic, an ending not with glory, but with acceptance. Middle-earth Shadow of War. When Shadow of War arrived, it expanded everything its predecessor built and turned it into a massive power fantasy. The Nemesis system evolved. Enemies remembered you, taunted you, and hunted you with real grudges. No other game made its villains feel this personal. The combat was fast, brutal, and cinematic, letting you dominate entire fortresses with armies you'd forged yourself. Every battle felt earned, every victory yours. The world of Mordor was alive, grim but strangely beautiful, full of secrets, betrayal, and power. It wasn't just an action game. It was about control, corruption, and choice. A dark story about what happens when you become the monster you're fighting. God of War. After years of rage and chaos, Kratos returned, older, calmer, and deeper. God of War wasn't just a reboot, it was a rebirth of storytelling in games. The one-shot camera pulled you into every emotion. You felt the father-son tension, the quiet moments, the thunder of battle. The Leviathan axe became iconic instantly. Every throw felt powerful, every recall satisfying. Combat mixed precision, brutality, and rhythm. A perfect balance of skill and spectacle. But what truly made God of War special was its heart. Behind the violence was vulnerability. Kratos wasn't fighting gods anymore. He was fighting to be a better man. It was mythic, emotional, and unforgettable. The perfect evolution of a legend. GreedFall. GreedFall was the underdog of its generation, a AA RPG that dared to challenge giants. Set in a 17th century-inspired fantasy world, it mixed muskets and magic, diplomacy and danger. The world of Tyr Frade was filled with mystery, political intrigue, and moral gray zones. Quests had real weight. Alliances could crumble based on a single dialogue choice. The colonial themes were bold, asking what it means to conquer, to exploit, or to coexist. While it didn't have blockbuster graphics, GreedFall made up for it with soul. It was a game for old-school RPG fans, people who missed dialogue trees, consequences, and meaningful world-building. A hidden gem that reminded everyone why choice still matters.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. By 2020, Assassin's Creed had reinvented itself, and Valhalla was its peak. You lived the life of a Viking raider, sailing rivers, building settlements, conquering England. It was brutal and serene all at once. The world was enormous yet alive. Forests, castles, icy seas, every inch dripping with atmosphere. Combat carried weight from axe swings to shield clashes. And beneath the raids and glory, Valhalla told a story about belonging, family, and legacy. It blended history and mythology perfectly. Odin's visions, hidden truths, and Norse sagas intertwined with the assassin lore. More than just another entry, Valhalla was a full-scale saga about power, gods, and destiny.
Kena, Bridge of Spirits. Kena, Bridge of Spirits was a surprise masterpiece, a small studio creating something that looked and felt like a Pixar movie, but played like a classic action-adventure. Every frame of the game was crafted with love, lush forests, ancient shrines, glowing spirits floating through the mist. You played as Kena, a young spirit guide helping lost souls find peace, and it was both heartbreaking and beautiful. The combat was simple but satisfying. Parries, spirit bows, and the adorable rot creatures that helped you purify corruption. What made Kena so special was its emotion. Beneath the cute visuals was a story about grief, memory, and forgiveness. It wasn't a massive open world or an RPG with endless systems. It was a focused, soulful experience that reminded players why we fell in love with adventure games in the first place. Elden Ring. When Elden Ring arrived, the gaming world stopped. From Software took everything they'd learned from Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro and unleashed it in an open world that redefined what exploration truly means. Every hill, every ruin, every shadow on the horizon invited curiosity. There were no quest markers, no forced paths, just a world that trusted players to find their own way. The lands between felt ancient and alive, filled with gods, madness, and beauty. Every boss was a painting in motion. Every victory felt earned. Elden Ring wasn't just a game, it was an event, a statement that single-player adventures could still dominate the industry. For many, it was the closest thing to magic gaming has produced in years.
Baldur's Gate 3. Few games ever achieved true greatness. Baldur's Gate 3 did. Larian Studios took the soul of tabletop Dungeons & Dragons and turned it into one of the deepest, most reactive RPGs ever made. Every conversation, every battle, every choice mattered. You could talk your way out of fights, romance half your party, betray gods, or become one. The game didn't tell a story, it told your story. Its cinematic dialogue system made even the smallest side character feel alive. And the writing, intelligent, emotional, and unpredictable, raised the bar for every RPG to come. It's rare to play something where freedom truly feels limitless, but Baldur's Gate 3 achieved it. It wasn't just fantasy, it was the fantasy, the ultimate expression of what role-playing can be. Dragon's Dogma 2. More than a decade after the first game, Dragon's Dogma 2 returned. Bigger, bolder, and finally recognized for what it always was, one of the most unique RPG experiences ever created. Its world wasn't built for map icons. It was built for discovery. You'd stumble upon Cyclops fights in valleys, griffins swooping from mountains, and caves that told their stories without a single quest marker. The pawn system returned, letting you share and recruit AI companions made by other players. And the combat, that signature Capcom blend of physics and chaos, was unmatched. Climbing giants, slashing midair, and unleashing magic that lit up the sky. Dragon's Dogma 2 reminded everyone that fantasy doesn't need to hold your hand. It was raw, unpredictable, and gloriously alive. The kind of adventure that makes you miss sleep just to see what's over the next hill.
Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Every few years, a game comes along that reminds us why we fell in love with fantasy in the first place. And Clair Obscur, Expedition 33 is exactly that game. Set in a surreal, painterly world where art and reality collide, it tells the story of a doomed expedition trying to reach the heart of creation itself, before the world resets for the 33rd time. What makes it unforgettable is its combat system, a turn-based turn-based, real-time hybrid where timing, rhythm, and reflex matter as much as tactics. Every battle feels like a dance, precise, emotional, and cinematic. But it's not just gameplay, it's atmosphere. The French surrealist aesthetic, haunting orchestral music, and dreamlike storytelling create an experience unlike anything else released in recent years. Clair Obscur doesn't just compete with classics, it reinvents what fantasy RPGs can be. It's poetic, tragic, and mesmerizing. A visual masterpiece that closes the list perfectly.